Call the budget meeting to order. I'm gonna miss that. You get me every time. Did we have any citizens communication?
No, ma'am.
Okay, no citizens communication.
No, ma'am.
The next is to approve the minutes from May 5th.
Pencil.
Huh?
Pencil a minute.
Yeah. Can I get a motion?
Second.
That's okay.
I can't hear anything.
Mary did the motion and David the second. Any corrections? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the meeting say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Next are the transfers. Phoebe?
Yes, thank you. The first transfer is from from Judge Andre and Judge Taylor. This is moving $1,200 from other contracted services to communications, and this is just to cover a shortage in that line item for the fiscal year.
Can I get a motion? Move to approve.
Second.
Has anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Your second transfer is actually for a surplus vehicle. This is a request from property management. As soon as a vehicle, a sound vehicle becomes available, we would like to transfer that over to property management.
Move to approve.
Second.
Did I already do that? No. Okay. Has anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
The next transfer request is from the Circuit Judge's Office. This is the office of the 21st Judicial District, moving from the assistance line, $7,000, to the part-time line for $7,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Next transfer request is from the Parks and Recreation. You will see there are several line items transferring for a total of $219,600. We are moving from personnel. We do have two lines we're moving from temporary personnel and part-time. From $90,000 and $75,000, we are moving that into our part-time personnel for a total of $165,000 in that area. Everything else is just operational expenses.
Move to approve. Second. Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
We have a transfer request from the Sheriff's Office, and this is for gas, to be transferred from gas to vehicle maintenance for $75,000.
Move to approve. Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Our next transfer request is also from the Sheriff's Office. This is a transfer request for $2,600, moving from travel into postage line.
Move to approve. Second. Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
And our last transfer request for the evening is for the Register of Deeds. This is $200 going from printing and stationery into communications line for some additional charges that we've incurred this year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0. Next thing is the budget. I'm gonna let Phoebe handle this.
Would you like me to go department by department or category?
Isn't that how we pretty much have to vote?
Just department, okay. So we will start on your long page that should be in front of you for consolidated budget 25-26. County Commission, total budget of $1,777,065.
Move to approve.
Just do major, okay, so we can do that, okay.
You know, we'll do the major categories of it, yeah, the big
Yeah.
number.
Okay. So the major category for general administration, $24,225,451.
Move to approve.
Second.
Does anybody have any changes or comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
The next major category is finance for a total budget of $7,966,927.
Move to approve.
Second.
Does anybody have any comments or changes? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Administration of Justice, $6,394,381.
Move to approve.
Second.
Anybody got any changes or corrections? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? Passes 5-0.
Public Safety, $54,792,319.
Move to approve.
Second.
Has anybody got any changes or corrections? Yes, Commissioner Smith?
I'd like to try it once more to look at that 520,000 to increase his budget by 520,000 to do that mid-year raise to get to the 75th percentile. So I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Second.
Do you want to discuss it more?
Ken, I think with the last time we met, we had that discussion with the salary study. And, you know, I thought a good compromise was right now they're at the 68th percentile, and I know we need to do this across the county, but I thought this was a good first start to help with some of the recruiting issues that we're having in the sheriff's office. So again, I'd like to propose just maybe mid-year, getting them to that 75th percentile with just that 520,000 increase.
Just a point of clarification, you said 60th and 65th, right?
I think that at the end came in that they were the 68th. Like that was what the current amount would have been. So it was just the 7th percentile.
So are you ready to increase the tax rate more to pay for that?
You know,
Are you ready to vote for it?
I've actually got a couple of ideas for some cost savings. So I'm hoping that maybe with some of the cost savings ideas, we can make up the difference.
Where are you talking about cutting it?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to look at is I wanted to go back and look at the Chromebooks for the schools. I did some calculations there, and I'm not sure where the 6 million total comes from, but based on the number of students in the 3rd through 5th grade, the average Chromebook cost, you know, I came out with 1.8 million for a $200 Chromebook for 9,200 students, and then also looking at the carts, I think the carts, just did some quick analysis, that was about 720,000. So the total that I was getting on the Chromebooks was closer to, 2.5 million on that. So I did want to discuss that when we got to the school budget. And then also, I know that there's a purchasing and insurance meeting on Thursday, and Commissioner Lawrence had suggested a prescription drug plan change that could potentially save the county upwards of $12 million. So I wanted to have another discussion around that. I know the hospital said that they weren't open to that, but considering that we're giving them $5 million in ambulance service, I was hoping we could have a discussion around that proposal too. So I do think that there's some opportunities to look at cost savings and then also some potential revenue streams going into this next year. So the 520 I thought was pretty small ask, considering there are potential high dollar cost savings.
Well, the hospital, for one thing, we're not giving them that money.
Right.
We're responsible for providing the ambulance service, and they're paying millions out of their pocket for our expense, so we're not giving them money.
Correct, I agree.
And then my other issue is you're picking out just a few to get a raise and nobody else.
And like I mentioned, I said, I do think we need to look at this across the county. I just feel like there is a current, issue right now with the sheriff's office and their ability to recruit and retain folks. And it's, we're talking about safety here, and, we're not seeing crime rates go down, and we're seeing the sophistication of the things going on across the county. So I want to make sure that, we're moving in that direction across the board. And my feeling was this was just a small ask to kind of give him the ability to be able to retain and recruit these qualified individuals. But I agree, I would like to, look at how we can get this across the county also. But we gotta start somewhere.
Well, you can give the officers, but what about the people in the jail that do the secretary work? They don't get one. Cafeteria workers in the schools don't get one. You have to have all the support for everybody. And you're gonna make some awful angry employees by nitpicking who you're gonna give one to and not.
Well,
That's my belief.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments?
I have a comment. I totally understand that point, and that's the last thing I want to do, because I know we appreciate all of our employees, but law enforcement in the last at least 5 years has been in a completely different situation than other employees. And this is not just in Williamson County, this is all over the country. Even in Brentwood, where they were kind of out of, they always would keep everybody in lockstep. They even split that off to give more money to public safety, because the recruitment and retention part is just different than what it is for everybody else. And the one thing in the culture of law enforcement, when police officers meet each other from all over the country, at trainings or whatever else, they always talk about pay compression, pay scales, what they're expected to make when they get here, when they get here, when they get here. And those are things that are built into the law enforcement culture across this whole country. And if that gets out of whack, they just won't come, they won't even apply. And then you may start getting people that are applying that aren't the level of the people that you want. And it just is different. There's a lot of correlations between a lot of government jobs with jobs in the private sector, but there really are no correlations with law enforcement. I guess you could say security guards or, loss prevention or something, but for the most part, it's a very unique situation. And the biggest morale killer ever is compression. And I know you know what this means, but for people that don't, is that when you have people that are coming in making what people that have been there for a long time are making, especially when those people for a long time can leave and go somewhere else and make more money. And then you start losing your expertise and things like that. So it's just unique. It's just different. And I don't want to try to put somebody one above the other, but the circumstances have changed in law enforcement. And if we don't do something for them, they've been making a lot of strides. And I'm proud of the work that's being done, but there's employees that have been there for a while. They're sitting back and waiting to see what we're going to do. And maybe we can wait and just see if they don't stay. But I think they're going to lose some people, and it's going to start trending backwards from what the progress has been made. That's my reason for supporting this outside of everybody else.
Well, I know a few years back, I don't know if you were here, Claire, when they did an adjustment on the salaries of the sheriff's department.
Yes.
We did an adjustment then, and just like this time, it's more than 4% for some of them, isn't it also? Aren't y'all doing another adjustment this time?
There's a 4% across the board for all employees, and through the compensation study, we identified time in your highest grade. And if there were any discrepancies, then the consultant adjusted it. So if two of you started at the same time, had the same level of tenure in the highest grade, one was $2 more than the other, there's no explanation for that, but there was not a good review of internal equity upon hire. So that's the correction when we say we're correcting things based on tenure. So there are a plethora of individuals across the county that have the same scenario where they will be getting adjustment above and beyond the time and above and beyond the 4% across the board. In addition to that, individuals that were below the new minimum that was set when we looked at 13 comparables with other cities or municipalities and counties across the Middle Tennessee and even across the state. That's where we came up with the new minimum starting pay rate, the new midpoint, and the new max. So it's adjust to minimum, adjust people that have been in their position based on tenure that had some discrepancies.
And Claire, that was included in the study that we've already voted on at the 65% level that really is 68%.
Yes, that's
Percentile.
correct.
So the compression and the tenure was addressed in that.
Yes,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean, let me say it this way. Our previous salary compensation study tried to get us to 50% of market.
Mhm.
So kind of use a car analogy. We kind of off the Honda. So now we're trying to buy a little bit, another car up, if you will, and get to the 65th percentile. So that's what we're doing now. We're marketing at the 65th percentile. We're just a comparative. You have Franklin and Brentwood that are above that, for example, that are close in our backyard.
Can I make a point to your question, Commissioner? Compression was the last thing that we were able to deal with, given the finite number that we had to work within. And we thought it was most important to get our starting pay up. So that come off the top. So very little of the pie, once you sliced it, went toward correcting the compression problem. It was mostly to get the starting pay up, just so we could be competitive with those that we're trying to hire against.
Was that your choice?
Beg your pardon?
Was that your choice on which one to do?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if you don't get the starting pay up, nothing else matters.
Commissioner Duncan?
I'm a visual person, so I was just thinking about the spreadsheet on the screen. And I believe I remember that we went through the starting pay changes. Yeah, and I have it in my
Okay.
phone I can look at, but it was the starting pay changes and then the tenure adjustments and then the compression, and that was the third piece of the puzzle there. Okay, thank you.
One more brief, part of the issue is that we're, two things, that we're dealing off of the numbers that were last year's. Well, a lot of the local, the people that we straight compete with, Brentwood and Franklin and Nashville and all of those, we were going off last year's numbers to get to the 68th or 65th percentile, and now they've gone up again, and so we're falling that much behind again. And I'm not trying to be overly critical of the study, but because this isn't the first time I've seen that company do one of these studies, they also go grabbing out of East Tennessee to mess with the numbers, and that is, you can't compare anything in Middle Tennessee to East Tennessee, nothing. You can't compare real estate, jobs, gas prices, anything. And that skews it probably, if you pull that out. I was always curious about what the number would be if you didn't have, I don't know, whatever Blount County or whoever they were, Knox County or whatever they were pulling out up from that way. And it, only our market's coming from Middle Tennessee or out of state. And so it's not even a comparison. It's just like statistics, you can make them go a lot of different ways. But so those are two more issues that I just want to throw out for why I'm for doing this for the sheriff's department.
Claire, can you clarify for me, please? Because I thought that he said, because they do studies on a lot of the areas, that they had actually used they had looked at last year's, but then considered that they would increase the areas around us. So I thought that was part of the study as well,
Yeah.
that assumption.
The good thing for us is that Steve Thompson works with a lot of individuals, primarily in this area and also throughout the state. And so some of the data was current in their current budget cycle because he has, he's privy to all that information. He's constantly compiling it. I can tell you definitively it wasn't a hard mark of just last year. It's as much real data as he could get at the time that he formulated the calculations, and that was set in November. So we were looking at the new minimums, mids, and maximums were set in November. Except we did go aggressive with the sheriff's office and eliminated the bottom pay rate because it was just not competitive, and that is where the compression, the sheriff, if I may, took the initiative to push those starting pay rates. So he did create a little bit more compression in that particular department, and he was at liberty to do that as an elected official.
And Commissioner Smith, where were you suggesting to cut the budget today to take care of that? Not what could happen, but what are you wanting to cut the budget today to make up for it?
I'd like to look at the school budget and the Chromebooks, the $6 million figure. I think that, you know, I would like to understand that calculation for $6 million for the Chromebooks, to reduce that by $4 million to, the market rate for Chromebooks is about 200 apiece, so that was one area. So if we could look at, it would actually be about 3.5 million.
I guess my concern is we've already approved that budget. This is just the final. I wish you would have done that before we get to this point.
I wish I'd had time to do the calculations. I actually just was able to do a little bit more digging, you know, literally within the last 24 hours. Because I don't know, most people got their assessments yesterday, and I don't know about everybody else, but I'm already looking at a 10% property tax increase if we do absolutely nothing. And right now, I don't know if you've been following the news, but there's not a lot of good things happening with regards to, you know, some employers. So I'm very sensitive to, you know, the requests that I've gotten to do all I can to try and minimize any property tax increase. And that's one thing that I feel like is one of my prime responsibilities on the county commission, is to do that. So I did a lot more looking into just a few things and putting some things together, and I feel like we still have some time. I know we've got to get this into the paper, you know, as soon as possible, but I just wanted to put these ideas out there while we still have time to hopefully minimize any other additional property tax increase we need to do.
But you're saying you don't want to increase the property taxes, but you're wanting to increase this budget. That means a property tax increase.
For the 520, if we do nothing else, then yeah, I would say there are things that we can do. I would say that we do have some options. We also discussed, you know, we've got the adequate facilities tax study coming out. That's supposed to be here in September, and that might be an additional $6 to $7 million in recurring income. I know we weren't successful with the transfer fees this past year that the mayor was a big proponent of, and we got a lot of support for, but that's another area, you know, that I know a big part of that was for highways, but I'm just trying to give as many ideas as I possibly can to make sure we're taking care of the things we need to take care of, and that we're looking for cost savings where we can. And
I feel like we've already been through all of that. Through this whole budget cycle for the last month, we've tried to find cost saving and brought it to people's attention.
And I mean, I'm still trying, you know. I did not have a chance to look into the Chromebook calculations, like I said, until just recently. I just was able to go and look at the enrollment numbers and see how many students we were providing this for, and I thought that was one area we could discuss. Again, and I talked to Phoebe yesterday, so it seemed like it was open to still making, I think up until the time we actually approved the budget, we're still, as a body, able to make suggestions and amendments. I'm just making the motion to amend. We haven't voted on it yet, but there are some opportunities to save money too.
I guess my question is to Claire. Let's say January, we found a lot of savings for some reason, had some extra money, we could do a possible raise at that point, couldn't we?
That's a Phoebe question.
Yeah, I guess it was.
At that point, it would just be pulling from fund balance. The 520 obviously is not an exact penny. So you were reducing general fund, you were not reducing, or you're adding to general fund, you're not reducing schools. I can't take, there's not enough money That is not a penny equal for me to move a penny from schools to cover this. So this 520, even if we reduce the school's budget, I will be reducing my fund balance. That doesn't affect the penny per se, because it's not enough savings. You would have to find savings in the county general fund to offset the 520.
And if we pursue the prescription drug program that Commissioner Lawrence had requested, that would be something that could impact the reduction in the county general fund if we could get the hospital to look into that. Again, even if we waited till January and we didn't realize the full 12, we only realized 6, that would be dispersed across both the schools and the county general.
It would affect, yes, it would affect both. And this would, obviously that's something you could do once that's approved, but just please keep in mind that we are trying to get something out or to make the deadline for the public hearing. So we would have to do it proposed, and we would have to do, maybe adjust that later or on the floor on the 20th.
And Commissioner, I would just add, based on professional experience, that typically drug savings rebates or changes to drug savings, you're often on a lag, especially first year. Your lag is going to be 6 months or more before you start to see and actually realize any dollar savings. Typically first year after the 6 months, you then have a quarter lag before it pays out. We would be looking at next year before realizing real dollars.
Or possibly still 3 million if we did this starting January. I know that Commissioner Lawrence had wanted, July, but even if we end up with January and there's 3-month lag, we still could realize $3 million in savings. And that still would be possibly enough to cover, but, we also have the adequate facilities tax study to come in, and that's coming in, supposed to have that in September, and I don't know if we've got numbers on that yet, but the preliminary numbers look like it could be between 7 to 8 million if that does get adopted.
I'll just say I would prefer to vote on the Sheriff's Department budget as we've approved it already, and then if we find after the year has commenced that there's additional savings, that there's an opportunity to come back and revisit it. But I think the study was done, in good faith with the ability to start somewhere. And I'm more comfortable in this year when we're considering, the increases, that we go with the more conservative view.
Any more comments on Commissioner Smith's motion?
Madam Chairman, would you ask her to restate it? 'Cause I
Restate your motion.
To amend the Sheriff's Department budget from $54,792,319 to an additional $520,000, so that would be
55, 312, 319.
Yeah, the 520 was the number I made.
Yeah, 50, that would be $55,312,319.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is everyone ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
It's the amendment.
Oh, the amendment, yeah, sorry, the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against?
Again, nay.
For you, nay. So 2, 4, and 3 against. Now we're ready to vote on the first motion.
Which
Yes,
is
the first
executive budget of 54,792,319.
Exactly.
So any more comments on that? Ready to vote on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes
Nay.
5 to, you're against? 4 for, 1 against. All right. Next, public health.
Yes. Total public health and welfare, $14,089,918.
Move to approve.
Second.
Has anybody got any questions or concerns? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5 to 0.
Social, cultural, and recreational facility or services is $27,526,297.
Move to approve.
Second.
Anybody got any questions or concerns? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Agricultural and Natural Resources, $950,537.
Move to approve.
Second.
Has anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Other general government, $38,061,690.
Move to approve.
Second.
Has anybody got any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against?
Total general fund, $174,007,520.
Move to approve.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5.
Mary's against you.
Oh, you're against the total fund,
Okay.
4-1.
Total solid waste sanitation fund, $10,509,041.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Special drug control fund, $196,150.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Total highway public works fund, $15,942,102.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Total general purpose school fund, $565,306,797.
Move to approve.
Second? I'll second it. Any questions on this budget?
Yeah, I guess this is the time I can bring up the Chromebooks again. So, and I'm gonna read what's here.
Are those under 72250?
So, and I've taught, I mean, you know, I did have a chance to do this because the 6 million for the 9,200 students, I'm just not coming up with $6 million because that comes out to over $652 per student. And so the Chromebooks, and also there's 3,600 students graduating. So I just feel like if there's a way that we could, and there's a way we could save a couple pennies on Chromebooks, I think it's worth going through the effort.
Sure, thank you for the question. Our unit cost is $460, so we bid that out, and Brian King has some extra detail if you'd like that. We also went through the process on evaluating those Chromebook replacements to eliminate Chromebook replacements for kindergarten through second. And we're actually going to use the old devices and not distribute them directly to individual students. So we did take some steps to reduce it. So this request that you have, we went through an administrative process to reduce on the front end. Now that included adding carts because we intend to not deliver those devices to students on a daily basis. So that there's $909,000, Ryan, Rachel, if I'm not mistaken, $909,000 built into this budget for carts for K through 2. That was an old system that we had years ago. So as we went through that replacement process, we determined that we can get by appropriately with those K2 students not taking the devices home. Again, we are taking the older devices and using them for those younger grades because of the time they use them. But for 3 to 5, which we've included in there for the Chromebook purchases, it is the $460 unit cost. I don't know where the 200 came from, but I know we didn't provide that to you. We bid those we bid those through our process. Now, I will say, we've gone through that Chromebook issue over time, and you may recall, and we've mentioned it, I know when we went through some of the earlier budget meetings leading up to tonight, when you guys approved our budget, either yesterday or the previous week, we talked about this. We would prefer to do leases, and a few years ago, the comptroller rejected our lease, and that's why we're purchasing it now. So there are some years when it spikes, but it delays some subsequent years for purchasing. So there will be some years where the device purchase drops. It happens not to be this year, and so that I get that can be tough on the budget side. If there is a cut, then our board would have to evaluate our whole budget rather than a particular item. But I do want you to know that from a Chromebook perspective, we reevaluated, we repurposed, and we restructured our usage. In the longer term, we have just initiated a conversation with our stakeholders. We have parent-teacher participation, where we're going to be spending the next 6 to 8 months based on our schedule evaluating student use of devices. And it's actually not just devices at school, but it's going to include cell phone usage, any conversations we might need to have with parents about the substance of the use of devices, and evaluate. President Trump actually signed an executive order a couple of weeks ago emphasizing what was described in that executive order as the critical importance of K-12 education on AI, artificial intelligence. So in the long term, I do anticipate some changes. And so we expect with this purchase for K through 5, Brian, how many years do you project it'll be before we need to make another purchase?
Well, the ones we're purchasing come with a 4-year warranty. So we're guaranteed 4 years, but our hope is to extend that.
And part of the unit cost, if I'm not mistaken, and just, I know since we're recording, Mr. King actually mentioned that it's a 4-year warranty. We actually have used the most recent devices longer than that. That's the warranty. The $460 per unit cost includes a warranty as well.
It includes a warranty, and it also includes a case, protection case, which we found out education needs those, and a screen protector, which will save us. So it includes both those items as well as a 4-year warranty. Yes, ma'am.
So is there, I know you got a technology team there, so you don't see any possible way that we could save on that particular line item this year?
Thank you for that. We've cut and cut. Short answer to your question is no with some of that detail I gave you. Now, what I do want to emphasize is in everything we do, we don't purchase unless there's a need. And one of the reasons we have a fund balance is for that reason, right? And so that's part of the revenue side that we projected on our budget. So, and again, that tends to be a year in arrears. That's one of the reasons we have a 12 million gap based on that proposed 4% increase in pay.
Any more questions on the education budget? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Central Cafeteria Fund, $20,827,302.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on this? It's self-funded. Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Extended School Program Fund, $8,077,174.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on this? It's another self-funded item. Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
General Debt Service Fund, $67,081,676.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions on this? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Rural Debt Service Fund, $42,198,228.
Move to approve.
Second. Any questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
Total consolidated county budget, all funds, $904,145,990.
Move to approve.
Almost within a dollar.
Second.
I guess I'm a little shocked when I hear the total, how much, and what it was a few years back. Any questions?
So what was the total increase from last year's budget? About 60.
It was last year. Last year's budget was $853,207,687.
Any more questions on the total budget? Ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Passes 5-0. I guess the next thing is certified, we vote on the certified tax rate.
Move to.
Say the amount.
Stevie do that.
So we did receive information today for the certified tax rate.
Before you get into that, Phoebe, there is a long sheet you've got, it's got draft all over it. We don't vote on the revenue side because that's gonna change, but this is for your information. And when I go back and you wanna move it around a little bit, it kind of tells you where we will be. And on the revenue side, the way that she's got it forecasted at the time being. That's why it's got draft all over it, so everyone knows that this is not the final revenue figure.
I'm good with the certified rate.
Yeah.
Certified tax rate, do I need to go by fund or just total?
Does she go by the?
Just total?
Well, you can go by total, but I think it's important that you just go through it individually early so you can see the reductions, increases, and how that's adjusted. And you've got Brad here that he can explain the certified tax rate if you all want to hear that, because this after lunch, the numbers were locked down, so we now have those. And I think all of our cities are locked down also.
So the county general fund certified tax rate is 0.252. The current tax rate is 38 cents. Solid waste sanitation fund certified tax rate is 0.0316, 3 cents. Currently, we're at 5. General debt service certified rate is 0.1459. We are currently at 0.22. Real debt service is 0.0909, a little over 9 cents, and we are currently at 14 cents. General purpose school fund, 0.7229 is the new certified tax rate. And this is down from our current $1.09. Total certified tax rate for the county is $1.24 or 0.2433. We do have to round it out to 4 for the certified rate.
We need to vote on that.
No,
The
what's your,
certified rate, that we vote on that.
the certified rate is what it is. It's been
Okay.
certified by the state. We don't have to do it. This is the number that you can go to the bank with now. And it's about 1.2433. We were at 1.88. So Brad's done the calculations, state's come back and said, this is your new certified rate. So based on the earlier numbers that you looked at and voted on by individual categories for your consolidated budget to be able to run into paper, she's got a sheet here, but to generate that kind of revenue, she's calculated 1.34, which is 10 pennies. What, it's gonna be 10 pennies to do this. If you all vote on it today, then this is what she'll submit into the papers for our public hearing. It does not stop you from changing. If it was the sheriff, if there's more homework, you could do that. If it's the schools, there's more homework, you could do that. All of that will be occurring, as you all know, who've been around, that'll occur in the month of June and July. But ultimately, we gotta have something run in the paper. And that's what this is about today. So to make this budget work, it takes a tax rate of 1.34.
You want to break that down and then we'll vote on that?
Yes.
Chair, we do need to vote to accept the tax rate.
Okay.
Move to approve.
To accept the certified tax rate.
Yeah, I think ultimately, that's what I was gonna confirm with legal. I think that the commission will need to vote to
The
recognize
commission,
certified.
I mean, we can do it here, but it really takes action on the full
Yeah,
commission.
exactly. And yeah, typically it's voted on at the floor and then the next resolution is for the actual tax rate.
Okay, we're going in. You did the motion to vote on the certified rate.
To accept the certified tax rate.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions about it? Ready to vote on the certified rate of 1.2433. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0 now. Phoebe, you can do the new requested rate to
So
cover
if
this
you
budget.
look at the sheet that is listed as the draft, on the back page at the very bottom, you will see using these numbers as the requested rate. So using a 0.28 for the general fund, 0.3 for solid waste, 15 cents for the general debt service, 11 for rural debt service, and we'll get to schools in a moment. But if you look at that, this calculation that you have in front of you is using those rates. On the bottom of the page, you will see, on the bottom of page 2, you will see what that equates to our ending numbers. So using those rates, you can see in general fund, we are still slightly, we'll have a slight draw to our fund balance in order to balance the general fund. If you recall, well, previously the draft, before the tax rate, we were looking at, I think, approximately 23 or so that we were short. So we were looking at now a $14 million draw. That is even with this tax increase.
So this is a very conservative tax increase.
Yes,
I
it
feel
is.
like.
Yes, it is. on Fund 116, using a 3-cent tax rate, you can see we will be able to, I have projected a $600 excess there over revenues, over expenses. The next column there is for highway. We do not distribute any tax dollars for that. The highway fund is sufficient revenues to cover expenditures fully. The next column, 151, is your general debt service, increasing from 14 cents to 15 cents will allow us to cover all except the 949. That will be a draw from fund balance. And in rural debt service, adding 2 pennies, adding that to 11 cents from 9 from the certified rate, that will drop our draw down to 1.6 million. So the numbers you have in front of you are the projected revenue based on the requested rate that I have presented to you.
That looks like an impact to the fund balance of about 20 million.
Yeah, total would be across the board for just the county funds would be 16.9 million that we would be drawing from fund balance.
Oh, there it is, right there.
It is. It's that very last column. My headings got a little small. That is, just for reference point, in 24-25, this current fiscal year, we had a draw in general fund from our fund balance of 12.9 million. So we are trying to remain very conservative with that tax increase.
I have a question. You know, there's been a lot of upset people out of Davidson County. How much were they talking about? Have you heard how much they were talking about increasing theirs?
I haven't yet.
Have you heard money? Because I've already started getting phone calls, but.
I'm expecting it to be significant.
Does anybody have any questions about the new rate?
Just procedural questions. So this is basically just to kind of give folks in the community an idea of what the increase would look like right now to balance our current budget.
Correct.
And the property tax, I know, I don't know exactly, do we have like a projected for the schools? I know it's just kind of all put together under local revenue.
I do.
Do you know?
If you look at the next page, there is another long handout for the schools fund. So that is adding the new requested rate of 0.77. That will allow us to completely cover their shortage, their gap that they had this year, and just a couple of million extra. Not a great deal extra, but just, I think it turned out to be a little over, right under 2 million over the top of their gap.
So about 2 million of the 324 is property tax. I'm just trying to understand how much of our property tax, so we have local taxes here, so I'm assuming that the 324 million.
That is local taxes for property tax. Using that number, using 0.77 rate, the estimated collections for general purpose school would be $195,763,617. So there are other taxes, local taxes, other than just property taxes.
And that's using the 92%?
Yes, yes.
Right. I know we had to discuss like what it would look like to just bump that maybe just to 94. But that would also save us a couple cents.
So moving that to 94, you're going to generate $1.6 million. So it'll be $1,656,448. So you will only have a slight increase moving from the 92% to 94.
And is the 92% considered best practice
It is.
from a county budgeting standpoint? And that's what the comptroller, approves and recommends.
Obviously, they have some leeway of it depending on circumstances of your county. We have conservatively stayed with 92%. As Mr. Coleman had mentioned last evening, we did receive a loss because of the sales rate, the ratio. We would have possibly not been able to absorb that quite as well if I had budgeted 100%. So doing that offset what we lost in that year's assessment. We would have been short on budget. So this way we are still meeting what our projected was because of lowering that estimate.
Last year, I'm sure somebody can explain it better than I'm gonna try to ask the question, but there was some kind of energy fund or something that we usually get back from the schools, but we let them keep it to help make up something. I may have that wrong.
No, it is, so the schools will pay, we have a bond. It is an energy savings bond, and the schools make those payments and reimburse the county for those payments. Last year, we did forego and did not require them to pay those funds back to help offset and compensate so they would have a little bit extra to cover their 3% fund balance.
And this year, we're not doing that.
No, this year was expecting them to write me a check.
Any more questions? We ready to vote on the new tax rate at 1.34? All those in favor say, oh, we didn't get a motion.
Move to approve the new tax rate at 1.34.
Second.
Ready to vote on the new tax rate of 1.34. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Passes 5-0.
I did not bring my calendar in when the next dates are. Do you have those with you?
Yes, sir, I do.
So you get these
This
on.
is the 13th. So we will meet on June the 2nd in our regular budget committee meeting to review resolutions
4:30.
at 4:30. On June 3rd, we will have our public hearing, so this notice will go out with what you just approved with a proposed rate. Again, you will have to do a resolution and prove the final tax rate, but it will go out as you have approved this evening. June 2nd is the review, the June 3rd at 5:30 is that public hearing. That will be in the auditorium. June 9th is our regular scheduled commission meeting. On June 12th, we will have another review resolutions. And on June 20th at 9 a.m., the full commission will meet to adopt our budget.
My only concern is, because I've seen this happen before, we get to this point and we're at our all-day meeting and someone decides they want to not raise taxes. And you're talking about, I don't think they realize what a major thing that is as far as they haven't been involved in what has to be cut to not raise taxes. So I hope all the commissioners will remember that and have been watching these budget meetings or know enough about it, they won't try that.
I guess my question is then, is if we still do have some ideas and if there are still some possible ways, because I do think that even on the revenue side, there's avenues we haven't fully pursued. Because I for one do not want to support a property tax increase. I realize that we have the budget and we gotta pay our people and we've got all these, items in our budget that we have to operate and to continue to provide the services we need to. But I do think that there's some fairly significant cost savings, maybe we can't realize them all now. And there's also some significant revenue streams. What is the best avenue for getting that into consideration as we discuss, a potential another 7, at least for myself? I mean, I don't want to compare us to Davidson County, I don't want to become Davidson County, but right now, based on my calculations with this tax rate, it's going to be a 17.5% increase for most of the folks that are in my county, on my side of the county, because I haven't talked to anybody that's been below, 63% increase in assessed value. And so it's, like I said, I'm already at a 10%, I'm looking at my taxes, a 10% increase, and this being a possible another 7.5%. So what is the best way to propose some of these ideas and actually have them considered as we move into the finalizing the budget and the tax rate?
Well, you can make suggestions if you know exactly what you're talking about cutting. We've had them come before and just say, I'm not gonna do a tax increase. Well, then what are you gonna cut? You can't just say we're not gonna do it. You've gotta redo the whole budget. So unless you can say something that exactly what you're talking about cutting. And getting back to this, not everybody will get a tax increase. I looked at some of my appraisals and not everything went up that full amount. Some went way above and others less. So it's all according to where your property is at and how much it went.
I'll say my side of the county has been hit hard, and Nolensville's also looking at an additional property tax increase. Right now, they're looking at almost doubling there, so I'm super sensitive and trying to do all I can to try and minimize the impact on folks. And so I'll say it out loud, property tax is my least favorite tax. I know there's efforts even in Florida to try and do property tax reform. I know we don't have a whole lot of options as a county commission on how to increase revenue, but I do think we have a couple viable options out there. There's the wheel tax, there's the adequate facilities tax for non-residential. So I do think there's some avenues there that we need to pursue that would be, hurt a little less for those who are doing, I'm getting reports of 75, 80% in the county. So I just think that we, need to seriously consider some of these ideas and look at, how we can, do our best job to minimize the impact to our residents, especially those on a fixed income. I'll say this too, I know folks that have moved here from Illinois, California, New York, and they're used to paying much higher property taxes. But I think that, doesn't consider the folks who've lived here for many, many years that are just, questioning, what's going on? Why am I getting hit just for being here for decades? I've been here for, over 20 years, so I just want to make sure that we have an avenue of bringing forth suggestions that shows that we're doing all we can to try and minimize the property tax increase. That's all.
And I understand that, but then I've had other people come to me. It's different now. This is different. Back years ago, we offer tax freezes for people that don't make as much, low income. But people now in this county are used to these services and they want it. I'm gonna use Parks and Rec. I've had people from Parks and Rec use those services, say, I'm willing to pay, $200 more? That's me going out to eat a couple of times a year to keep having some of these services. I'm not for a property tax increase, but I think people would be more upset if you cut a lot of the services.
I would just consider that our budget structure, the way the committee is structured and the way that all of our committees are structured provides us the opportunity to go in on line items and expenses and debate them and discuss cutting and you saw where it happened today that maybe, you asked the question and got the answer about where the number came from the different departments. So I feel like we have that opportunity to go through and do that in our committee structure. I think to the chair's point, we have the ability to have the conversation at the commission, but the meat of the work that gets done in committee.
I will add that I have learned a lot, so I appreciate you. I've learned a lot from you, Chair Herbert, and I've also learned a lot from the mayor and being able to sit on this budget committee. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here and be able to listen to our department heads. But I think at the end of the day, sometimes it's difficult to see, especially some of those line items that spread across different departments, like medical insurance, dental insurance. It's really hard to pinpoint some of those items that are spread across. And so, there's, the budget's massive. Oh my gosh, I carry it around with me, it's huge. So it's really hard to get into some of those line items, and we are dependent on the department heads and those to bring forth any ideas on savings. And we do want to make sure people are paid well. That's why, I think we need to give equal consideration to some of these other revenue streams. So, we can look at all the tools in our toolbox and say, hey, if we can eliminate property tax, and we can look at these other revenue streams that we need to give them, serious consideration too.
I just feel like this county has been run so conservative for so many years that sometimes people come in and think, oh, I can find, money, there's waste. And there's not waste. It's always been managed very well. The department heads are great in getting donations. Phoebe works hard. And Andre gets more donations than anybody. And then you've got the Parks and Rec that make $1 million off the Renaissance that covers. So I feel like this county is run very efficiently, and it's not like when you do a tax rate, you've got to pay the employees, increase all the employees. You've got to pay them or you won't have any employees here. So I feel like this is a very good budget and it's been done extremely conservative. Ma'am?
Well, I'll just summarize. I think there are opportunities that either bring them here, submit them to Phoebe. I mean, she takes everything very seriously. We'll take it seriously here, but we do have to have some ideas. You know, I think between now and the time you vote on it, we'll see some more revenue come in, I hope, from the state on the schools. There may be some other grants that we can look at, but this is not the first step. It's one of the steps we have to do by state law to put it in the paper. You're gonna get input. You're gonna have people, like we had an email today that Diane sent to me, sent it to Brad. He sure hoped we were gonna bring the property tax down to revenue neutral. Was that the word he used? Well, that's why you do it. And so we'll answer him to tell him that, yeah, it's coming down to revenue neutral. But there are opportunities, and there are things in here we could do that would adjust. But at the end of the day, you're gonna need some more revenue. That's it. That's it. So we're still working on this. It's just one of the steps we have to go through.
Any other business?
That was a motion to adjourn.
Get a motion to adjourn.
Yep.